Okay, good afternoon and welcome to this week's episode of Between Two Teachers. I'm Madeline Cronenberg.
And I'm Consuelo Lara. Welcome.
And we're so happy to have you here on, here it is, this is March 12th, our March 12th episode. And as always, we'll give our land acknowledgement. And we are coming to you from the ancestral lands of the Chochenyo Karkan Ohlone people. We remember their continued connection to this region and give thanks to them for allowing us to traditional homeland. We offer our respect to their elders and all Ohlone people of the past and present. So it's been another busy week in education. Nationally, I'm going to show you nationally the big news. The biggest city to have big news was Chicago. Chicago came to an agreement. They had a very big contentious conversation, as we know Chicago has had before. So this is just a little bit of it. They came to a binding agreement for the resumption of in-person instruction earlier this week. And that was a big change. They were the largest big city. Well, Los Angeles is another one that also came to an agreement. But Chicago did. And here's Mr. Cardona. Mr. Cardona, our new Secretary of Education. I'd like to show his picture because Mr. Cardona, here he is going to pivot. He's going to pivot. He looks like a man about to pivot. He's going to pivot from the DeVos era of ed education to an era where you have a classroom teacher leading the way. And that is Mr. Cardona. So we're going to have a lot of information about him as we go forward here.
Absolutely.
I just wanted to point out that if you go on here, I always leave the link in. It'll take you to this page, which is why I really wanted to show it today. This is an article from the New Republic that really talks about the struggles that everyone with respect to education has had with reopening schools and all of the aspects of it. And it's a long but really well-written article. And it says it's messy. It's incredibly messy because you have so many divergent opinions and even opinions about the science because it's really so unclear. But we are reopening. Eventually, everybody's getting there and everybody's talking about it. And this is just an article that just says that even the talking about it has been uneven. Everything's been uneven. Every communities have been impacted unevenly, to say the least. And the coverage of the communities that have had uneven representation in the numbers of deaths and the numbers of cases has also been uneven. And so this is just something in LA. In LA, the wealthier families who really wanted to return to school first, before the families that were more impacted, got much more news coverage. Much more news coverage than, this is just an article that proves that. They did some research. Here's what they're doing in LA. All right, so LA is the largest district in California. They came up with their agreement to go back to school now on April 19th. And what they're doing is they're going to have their kids back. Elementary is back in hybrid with an AM PM schedule. Secondary kids get some on-campus time. Pre-K is back in person all day. This is so interesting how they're doing it. When possible, kids will keep their current teachers, which I would think is so important, because here you've been through this whole year, so to have to change teachers now, but if you're going to move children around in cohorts and have some children at home, some children at school, you're going to have to figure out staffing. right? So probably everybody's not going to keep their teacher. They are going to have weekly COVID-19 testing. And that's something that hadn't come up in many of these other plans. And that, I think, may be the biggest change in all of these plans, is that we're able to do that. And really what you need is testing that is on site and 15-minute tests. And those are now available. We're going to talk about that. They still have masking and social distancing, cleaning of the schools. They're putting in social emotional supports for all students. So they're going to have to find more counselors to hire, more nurses, additional training for teachers, and students will continue to get meals whether they are attending online or in person. And so that's what those teachers negotiated. They're going to go back on April 19th. Mount Diablo voted the other night to go back on March 22nd to start their phase in to return. The other big news in California is there's another superintendency open, and it's the one that has had, or one of them, there are several that have had controversy. This is Vince Matthews. He's the superintendent currently in San Francisco Unified, and he announced his retirement this week. So he'll be leaving. West Contra Costa also searching for their superintendent. Right now, as we speak, they're searching for their superintendent. So probably, or when we do next week's episode, we'll be able to announce, hopefully the announcement will have been made by then as to who the new superintendent will be. They've announced, and you'll be able to click on this and read it, 4 things that they're looking for in terms of bringing anybody back, what the next steps will be for them to bring children onto campus, and how that might work. They haven't come to an agreement. They've just come to the table to talk about it. They're still at that stage where they're looking at coming to the table. Two of our board members issued a statement supporting the process, and that's really where we are with the labor process, right? You have to just issue a statement and support the process and let people make it through. And the other local thing that happened was in Oakley. So tell us, Trustee Laura, that is your other board that you are on.
Yes.
And there was lots of activity in Oakley.
Yes. So we're in the process. I'm probably just going to be on there one more meeting, because they're going to phase out us interims with the new board. So, gee, it's really nice to be at a board where people actually get along and respect each other. And the union heads were there about the process of selection of the new board. And at first, the dates were going to be during the next 2 weeks. They get 2 weeks off for spring break.
Because they don't do ski week.
Wow. So they don't get any President's Days off then,
They get a day. They get a day.
So that's where they put it. They put it there. And it's not even near Easter. But anyway, so they had chosen some dates that were during that time. And we said, you can't do that. It has to be after they come back, when the interviews will be. The paperwork, fine, you could do that. And so there's a nice chunk of time between when the applications will be posted and when the interviews will take place, giving people lots of time to connect with those individuals, ask them questions, and people come up with their own endorsements and recommendations, and they can say that public comment or send emails and have input. That's what they want. They want to have input.
Yeah, I mean, they could do it in the newspaper. They could, unfortunately, the first one, there wasn't that much information available to the public.
Yeah, and that had process had been started before we got on board. So it kind of was just closing that part up. So the 2 times when there'll be the interviews will be first one, March the 30th. And that's for there's a district one, I believe. And then on April the 6th, they'll be able to pick 3, because it turned out it wasn't just 2 at large, but there's 3 actually at large. And it was so very convoluted kind of things about when they are over. And then, so anyway, it turns out we could do 3 on, or they will, April the 6th.
So that would be from an entire pool, right? So you're going to, the first one, what is it, March
30th.
March 30th. All right, March 30th, you're going to have a pool of people, but only people who are from that particular district.
It's right? Not here. There's a nice letter from the superintendent, and I'm not seeing which district that is for the first one, but yeah, for that one particular.
So that person will be picked and then added to the board.
Yes.
Right?
Yes. So then, so that person, and then I'll be able to leave. So they'll still have the 4. And then they'll move on to the others. So people were pretty happy with the process. It was nice.
And people can apply. So there were people who were already in the first application group who you interviewed already, and the folks who don't win in the from next one, they could all apply in the at-large one, right?
Correct. And if you go to the website, there's a nice big link right there for the application. So it's right there. So get your application in.
And they're going to post it, right?
Yeah, they're going to post all of the applications in there. The deadline, I wrote that down. Let me see. The deadline to get them all in will probably be the 19th. So they're there right now, which is the 12th. So that's next Friday. So you got a whole week to get your applications in. And then after that, then there's about almost 2 weeks for, people can get contacted. So, and interviewed by organizations or individuals. And
right. And get endorsements that they could.
Endorsements. Exactly. So that's the big news. And they got a presentation about, I think like more than 50% of the, parents and families want to come back. That's a bigger percentage than ours. They showed these, they have this wonderful plan. It was so, it's illustrated, and it's a really good plan, and it's posted on their plan to come back. It just didn't have a date on there. So they had one more union that they had to settle with, and then it would be like 2 weeks from that date. So it might turn out to be like April 19th or 12th, something around there. So they'll be coming back. And they also showed pictures of all of the changes that they've made, where they've got, the plexiglass, and even the kids are sitting at, how you have a fold out for your science project thing? Well,
yeah.
Like that, but it's plexiglass all around the desk. And the desks are set. They put a lot of work into this. They are ready. They really are ready. I guess it helps to be like, they're like so small, it's a lot smaller than our huge district over here. But they are definitely ready with all of that. So they're gonna be going back pretty soon, I'm sure. So that's it for Oakley. And then are we ready for some county news from the County Board of Education? Or are you finishing yours?
Yeah, what happened? What about the county? What's news at the county?
County. Yeah. Okay, the Office of Education, vaccines are the big story, because there's many sites. There's the county, there's healthcare providers, retail sites, and also state and federal sites as well. So they've got their priorities in place. So let me talk a little bit about that. Priority group number 1 are people like bus drivers and cafeteria, district administrators who interact with students, maintenance, facilities, learning pod staff, on-campus yard supervisors, pre-K teachers, para-educators, nurses, daycare providers, speech, ELs, office staffs, and substitute teachers, and para-educators, and of course, just the regular teachers. So those are all, that's priority number 1. Priority 2 will be bus drivers who are not actually serving students, which I'm not sure who that is. And the district office staff, they're going to be level 2. And then there's paraeducators who work from campus using spaces, but they're not interacting with students as well. So I guess they're support staff. And then 3 will be all the rest of school-related workers who serve students, but they're still working remotely.
Right.
So this would be the group 3. And there's a vaccine dashboard. If you go on the website, all of that is listed here. And
that's on the county website.
This is right? the county website. So this is county-wide, what they're doing about it. So then I have some information about our district. And let me tell you about that. I think you mentioned about the food giveaway. They actually have these organic food boxes.
Yes.
They're giving out weekly to the students and the community. And it's organic and locally sourced. So that's awesome. So the spring reopening negotiations are in progress right now. They're bargaining with all the units, and this Friday, what's today, and then a Monday. So we don't know. It's in the works right now at this point. However,
we don't know.
Summer is definitely coming through, and it looks like over 80% of our school administrators want to have summer school in their schools this summer. So that might be a pretty big group that comes back to school in the summer for sure. Let's see, what else? The vaccinations. So there's continued work with the county and the education, the district. There's a large set of appointment codes that for staff if it's needed, and they're being distributed by the priority groups. That's how they're distributing those, and through your sites or your staff or whatever, where you work. And let's see, what else about that? Okay, and so there is a COVID-19 prevention plan. You can find that it's posted on the district website, Return to School. So that's there for everybody. And lastly, they're still trying to find Mr. Antoine Whitley, every day. That's still out there. People need to try to send some leads, something that's, very desperate in need for us to look for that young man. So I think that's about it for.
That's it for West Contra Costa.
Yes. Yep.
So let's see what else we've got. Well, we've got, I always leave this in here for the arts because I think it's really important, and especially in the times we're in right now. So you can go to any of these websites and get information on how to support arts on your Arts Council, Create California Alliance for Arts Education, and the folks that are working on the arts credential and the Bay Area arts programs. I wanted to just briefly talk about parents. And parents have been, so enormously frustrated by everything around COVID and with education with the reopening of schools. So in San Francisco has now picked a date to return. That happened this week. Prior to that, and of course, San Francisco now has a superintendent search that it will begin. And that happened yesterday. But earlier this week, the parents in San Francisco started collecting signatures to, some parents in some places have collected signatures to do recalls. And there are rules around how you can do that, and how when you can do this. Another story of how it might get changed out by a board resigning. In San Francisco, the board has parents that are collecting signatures to have the board changed from being elected by the community members to instead being appointed by the mayor or the supervisors. Major shift there. Because they, so this is that's happening there. In West Contra Costa, there is a big rally tomorrow at Nickel Park around reopening schools, and the parents are running that. In San Diego, just as one more example, the San Diego parents filed a lawsuit. This is a copy of the lawsuit against San Diego Unified, against Mr. Thurmond, is the head of education in the state of California. The board members, all the board members, and the superintendent there, to sue them to provide a return to in-person instruction. So we're going to see more of these lawsuits, if I would assume, if in-person instruction doesn't pick up. Then the other things I just wanted to share out in the world of privatization, which we talked about here on Between Two Teachers a lot. There was a really powerful webinar by Diane Ravitch, and she interviewed these two authors, Ms. Berkshire and I think it's Mr. White. Anyway, I recommend this to you. Anybody interested in understanding what's happening in school privatization, this webinar will teach you. Ross Valley is coming up once again. That we still have to wait and see. They're gonna, I think it's this week. Their appeal is being heard in Sacramento. This is tomorrow's march. Governor Newsom did sign the bill that we talked about last week, and so that's happened. And so if a school district is able to open by April 1st, they're able to use some of this, the money that's available for districts that open by that date. There's a pot available for them.
Isn't it the 21st?
No,
April 1st. Okay. Okay. All right.
And you lose money for every day after that you don't open. But they don't count if you are on vacation on April 1st.
Okay.
Then they don't count that week.
Count those days. No,
they don't count the days that you're on vacation. It's the first day after that. But if you're not on vacation, April 1st is the day that you start.
Got it.
This is there was the car caravan. This is for the Oakland reparations vote, which also has to be taken again. That was put over, so they're going to hopefully vote on that this week. To provide more funding for their African-American students. Doing advocacy work. Cancel the tests. So Dr. Cardona, Governor Newsom, Mr. Thurmond, whoever it is we can talk to about canceling tests because of what our children experienced this entire year. Testing needs to be changed anyhow, but this, like last year they were canceled, they should be canceled this year. And so there's a lot of movement to do that. It's also been done by the education deans, who are there's a group of ed deans who are in higher education who wrote a letter saying that they believe that in public schools and there are human rights and civil rights, and in democracy, it's the fair thing to do is to not hold these tests, find other measurements. It doesn't mean not to assess your students. It means to look for other things. So there's a lot of movement around that, including there's one done by the National PTA. And the teachers in UTLA did end over assessments in a pandemic. And that's exactly where we can do one thing. If we're going to push one thing, that's the thing you want to push.
Absolutely. It would make more sense to do social emotional more than anything else. Where are our kids?
Right. Let's make you sit in front of the screen again and do just more tests. It's not useful. There are better ways to find out the information you're trying to find out than going back to those tests. And of course, there's our conversation on the Social Security fairness. The COVID bill was signed this week. It includes many wonderful things. It does not include this so we continue as a second career and not have them lose the investment they've made in their Social Security pension.
Yeah.
Also for the arts is another, we can always have to champion our arts programs. And CTAs is to keep communities safe, and they also have an action center that you can see where they're focusing in on bills that are up, and so does the Network for Public Education. They have an action center as well. And the Americans for the Arts. So my shout out goes to the people at this place called SOS, which is Save Our Schools. They have a program with rapid COVID-19 tests. And rapid meaning that you get the you get the answer of whether or not you're positive in 15 minutes. They have enough, or could have enough, to give every student in California a test every day. They've piloted it. It doesn't have to be every day. You could do it twice a week. It's 15 minutes. Everybody takes it. Once you look at it and you can say, look, I'm negative. Everybody starts school and everybody knows everyone in the building is negative. If somebody's positive, you go home. I think this is the biggest game changer. This and the vaccinations, that's the game changer.
Yep. Excellent. Excellent.
That's the game changer. So we really need to support Mr. Thurman. This is a web, if you're interested in understanding it, you can just go on here, click here, and I've got the webinar right here, and you can watch, see if you can see it, the Facebook webinar where Mr. Thurman, there it is, whole webinar is right here. Mr. Thurman talks about, anyway, you can watch it. It's an hour long. Do that now. So it occurs to me that if we're ever going to do anything, we shouldn't not be talking about the fact that we have enough rapid tests.
Yeah, you use all of it, all of that.
Yeah,
everything we have. For sure.
Yeah, and I hope that the folks doing the negotiations understand we now have vaccines and testing abilities that we didn't have when they first came up with the things that they believed would make us safe.
Yeah.
Right. These things weren't invented. They didn't exist when they wrote it. So it's not their fault that they didn't ask for it.
Yeah.
But they exist now, and so they shouldn't be left on the table.
No.
So that is my hope.
Very good. Okay.
That we really do use them. And I think, right. So that's it. And my other shout out, just was, you mentioned it before, is to the great people at Conscious Kitchen who are providing organic meals to all of the families in West Contra Costa. Yeah. And amazing things, so that our children now have gone from one end of the spectrum to another in the quality of the food that they have every day and that their families have.
Yep.
And that it was just one of these unintended consequences of the pandemic.
Yeah, a good thing for them. Absolutely. Are we ready for our joke?
We are.
Chuckles from Carlos. Okay, so because it is St. Patrick's Day on Tuesday.
Right.
A little joke about that. So why did St. Patrick's drive all the snakes out of Ireland?
I don't know, Consuelo. Why did he drive all the snakes?
Because airplanes weren't invented
out
yet.
of Ireland. Carlos never fails us. He never fails us.
Plane. Oh my gosh.
All right, everybody. We'll see you next week. Maybe we will be able to announce the name of the new superintendent for West Contra Costa.
Maybe.
We'll see. Bye-bye.
Bye, everybody.